Did my ex keep me around for comfort while his mum was sick? This question has been stuck in my head ever since we broke up, and I honestly don't know if I'm overthinking it or if there's some truth to it. My ex's mother was very sick for a long time. It wasn't something that happened suddenly. It was an ongoing situation that weighed on him every single day. I watched him deal with the stress, the fear, the uncertainty, and all the emotions that come with knowing someone you love is seriously ill. During that entire period, I stayed by his side. We talked every day. Sometimes he'd vent, sometimes he'd just want a distraction, and sometimes we'd sit in silence, because there really wasn't anything that could make the situation better. I tried to be whatever he needed. I listened when he wanted to talk, reassured him when he was overwhelmed, and gave him space when he needed it. I genuinely cared about him, and I cared about what he was going through. We were still in a relationship throughout all of it, and we were still physically intimate too. Nothing about our relationship made me think I was just a friend or someone he was keeping at arm's length. We still spent time together, talked regularly, had sex, and, from my perspective, we were still a couple trying to get through an incredibly difficult chapter of his life. I never saw supporting him as some kind of obligation. I wanted to be there. If the person you love is experiencing one of the hardest things they'll probably ever go through, you don't really question whether you should show up. You just do. Then his mother passed away. I knew that losing her would completely change his world, so I expected grief. I expected sadness, emotional distance, maybe even moments where he withdrew into himself. I knew he would need time, and I tried to be understanding because I can't imagine what it feels like to lose a parent. But instead of us getting through that loss together, he broke up with me. Ever since then, I've been replaying everything in my head. Now I can't stop wondering if he only stayed with me because I was helping him survive everything that was happening while his mum was sick. Was I someone he genuinely wanted to build a future with? Or was I someone who made an impossible situation a little easier to bear? I keep asking myself whether he needed me, or whether he needed what I was providing. I was there emotionally. I was there mentally. I was there physically. I tried to be supportive in every way I knew how. Looking back, it almost feels like I became part of the support system that helped him keep functioning while his life was falling apart. And once that chapter ended, even though it ended in the worst possible way, did he realize he didn't actually want the relationship anymore? That's the part that's really difficult for me to make sense of. I don't know whether the breakup happened because grief changed him, because losing his mum made him reevaluate every part of his life, or because he'd already emotionally checked out of the relationship but couldn't bring himself to end it while everything else was happening. Part of me wonders if he stayed because breaking up with me during his mother's illness would have been too much to deal with. Maybe he leaned on me because I was familiar, comforting, and stable while everything else felt uncertain. Then, after she passed away, maybe he finally had the emotional space to make a decision he'd been putting off. But another part of me wonders if that's unfair. I've heard people say grief changes people in ways they don't expect. Some people isolate themselves. Some people push away the people closest to them. Some relationships don't survive a major loss, even if there wasn't anything fundamentally wrong beforehand. I've read stories about people ending relationships after losing a parent because they felt like a completely different person afterward, or because they simply couldn't connect with anyone the same way. So I honestly don't know what happened here. Was the breakup a reflection of how he truly felt about me all along? Or was it a consequence of grief and everything that comes with losing someone so important? I think what's hurting me the most is not knowing whether our relationship was real in the way I believed it was. I don't regret supporting him. If I could go back, I'd still want to be there for someone I loved who was going through something so devastating. But it hurts to think that maybe I was giving everything I had to someone who was mostly holding on to me because I made an unbearable situation a little more manageable. I keep wondering whether I was actually loved, or whether I was simply the person who made it easier for him to get through the darkest period of his life. Has anyone else experienced something like this? If your partner lost a parent or went through a major loss, did grief make them pull away or end the relationship afterward? Okay, so I don't even know how to start this without sounding dramatic, but this whole situation honestly made me lose all respect for someone I thought I was going to build a life with. I'm 27, and earlier this year, around April, I moved across the country with my boyfriend. It wasn't a random decision either. We planned it for months. We talked about everything: finances, responsibilities, what our life would look like. The agreement was very clear from the start. We were going to split everything 50-50. Rent, bills, groceries, all of it. It felt fair, and it felt like we were both equally invested. Then, pretty much right after we moved, he lost his job. At first, I didn't panic. Stuff like that happens, and I wasn't going to just abandon him over something like that. He told me he applied for unemployment and that he got approved, so in my head I was like, okay, this is temporary. I can cover things for a little while until that starts coming in, and then we'll be back on track. And I meant that. I wasn't resentful in the beginning. I was supportive. I was trying to be a good partner. But then weeks went by. Then a month. Then multiple months. And I'm still paying for everything. Rent is in my name. All the bills are in my name. Groceries, utilities, everything. I'm working 45 hours a week most of the time, sometimes more, just trying to keep us afloat. And every now and then I would ask him what was going on with the unemployment, just to check in, because at that point I was starting to feel the pressure. And every single time he would give me the same answer. He'd just say something like, "I'll let you know when I hear something back." At first I didn't think much of it. I figured maybe the system was slow, maybe there were delays, whatever. But after hearing that same line over and over again for months, it started to feel off. I also started asking him to just get a job in the meantime. Not even anything permanent, just something to help out a little. Even part-time would have made a difference. And he just wouldn't. There was always some excuse, or he'd act like it wasn't necessary because the unemployment was coming soon. So now I'm stressed, I'm overworked, and I'm starting to feel like I'm carrying the entire relationship financially. Then, one day, he left his email logged into my computer. And I know I shouldn't have looked, but at the same time, I had this gut feeling that something wasn't right, and I just checked. And what I found completely changed everything for me. His unemployment wasn't approved. It had been denied months ago. And not only that, but he had already filed an appeal, and the hearing wasn't even scheduled until January. So there was never any money coming in during all that time. So I'm sitting there staring at the screen, realizing that this whole time, while I've been working non-stop and stressing about bills, he knew the truth and just chose not to tell me. That's the part that really got me. It wasn't even just the money anymore. It was the fact that he watched me struggle and said nothing. So the next day, I asked him again, like I normally would. I didn't confront him right away, I just wanted to see what he'd say. And he gave me the exact same response. "I'll let you know when I hear something." At that point, something just snapped for me internally, because now I knew for a fact that he was lying, and not in a small way. This was months of lying, while I was basically supporting both of us. Later that night, I came home from work and decided I couldn't just sit on it anymore. I ordered a pizza, trying to keep things somewhat normal, but I knew I had to bring it up. So we're sitting there eating, and I asked him directly why he didn't tell me about the appeal, and why he kept saying he hadn't heard anything. And his response was, "I didn't want to stress you out." That was it. No apology, no accountability, just that. And something about that answer made it even worse, because it felt like he was trying to frame it as if he was protecting me. So I didn't even argue. I just got up and walked away. And that's when things got really weird. He started following me around the apartment, from room to room, trying to turn it around on me, saying I was treating him badly, that I was acting unstable, that I was overreacting. I remember just feeling so confused in that moment, because I was like, how did this become about me? Eventually, I told him I think we should break up. I didn't even say it dramatically, I just said it because I felt completely done. I went to take a shower just to get some space, and he literally followed me into the bathroom and refused to leave. At that point, I just grabbed my stuff and left the apartment altogether. I started walking to a park nearby, which is about a 15-minute walk, just to clear my head. And he followed me the entire way. While we were walking, he kept talking, saying he knew this was coming, that I must have been thinking about this for a long time. Then he started asking how I even found out. And when I didn't answer, he immediately accused me of going through his email and said I was a bad person for doing that. Then he flipped it even further and started saying that he's been more patient with me than he should have been in the relationship, and that I need help, and that I should have gotten help a long time ago. At that point, I just stopped responding. There was no point. It felt like anything I said would just get twisted. So we walked back home in silence. When we got back, he cornered me in the bathroom again and kept demanding that I give him a reason for breaking up with him. And honestly, I just didn't have the energy anymore. So I kind of just gave in and said, "You're right, I'm unstable. I shouldn't be in a relationship." Not because I believed it, but because I knew it would end the conversation faster. After that, I just went quiet until he finally left me alone. It's been a few hours since all of that happened, and I've mostly just been sitting here crying and thinking about everything. And I think the hardest part is that I still love him. Or at least, I thought I did. But now it feels like I've been holding on to this version of him that doesn't actually exist. Like I've been in love with the idea of what we were supposed to be, not what's actually in front of me. And the worst part is, if he had just been honest with me, if he had just said sorry and actually tried to fix things, I probably would have stayed. And honestly, that's kind of the scariest part, because it makes me realize how easy it would have been for this to continue if I never found out. Stories like this honestly make you question how well you really know the people around you. If you want to hear another one that's just as insane, check out the story on screen right now. So, yesterday I found out the real reason my parents divorced, and the way my dad discovered it is honestly so ridiculous that when he told us, my sister and I just stared at him like, there's no way that actually happened. But the craziest part isn't even the cheating. It's that once I heard the full story, suddenly my entire childhood started looking different. Like, every memory I have now comes with this weird question in the back of my mind. Was any of it actually real? And the thing that exposed the truth? It started with the police showing up at my dad's house. Yeah, I know. Let me explain. So I'm 16, and my parents officially divorced when I was 13, but honestly the relationship had been falling apart for years before that. Growing up, our house always felt tense, like something could explode at any moment. Sometimes things were calm, but then suddenly there'd be yelling, doors slamming, stuff getting thrown across the room, and sometimes it got physical. Usually my mum was the one who escalated things, which always confused me because she can also be incredibly kind, like the type of person who will bake cupcakes at midnight just because someone had a bad day. She's one of those people who can be warm and supportive one minute, and then suddenly explode the next. My dad is kind of the opposite. He can be blunt, sarcastic, sometimes a little harsh, but when it came to actually being a parent, he always showed up. Homework help at the kitchen table, driving us places, making sure I took my medication when my bipolar episodes got bad. So yeah, their relationship wasn't exactly healthy, but the moment everything really broke apart happened on a day that still feels surreal when I think about it. Christmas. Actually, Christmas Day, and what happened that morning is still burned into my memory. The house smelled like cinnamon candles and pine from the tree, wrapping paper everywhere on the floor. My sister and I were sitting there with our new gifts, when suddenly my mum started packing bags. At first I thought maybe she was going somewhere for the day, but then she just kept packing, and eventually she walked out, on Christmas. At the time, it didn't even shock me as much as you'd think. Their relationship had already been so chaotic for years that it almost felt inevitable, but what happened after she moved out is where things start getting strange. Because a few months later, someone new suddenly appeared in our lives, and looking back now, that timing feels very suspicious. For the first couple months after the separation, my sister and I stayed with my dad. Life actually felt quieter than usual. Not perfect, but calmer. Then, around February, we moved in with my mum again. She had this tiny apartment, 2 bedrooms, barely any space in the kitchen, the kind of place where you can hear someone open the fridge from across the apartment. And not long after we moved in, she introduced us to someone. I'll call him Daniel. And honestly, Daniel seemed almost too perfect. Calm voice, patient, the type of adult who actually listens when you talk instead of just pretending to. He also had 2 kids around the same age as us, and somehow we all got along immediately. Movie nights, board games, dumb arguments about which pizza topping is best. After a while, it didn't even feel like step-siblings. It just felt like siblings. My mum always told us she and Daniel had been friends for years, like this long-time friendship that slowly turned into something more. And at the time I believed her, but now, knowing what I know, that explanation feels very different. Because around the same time Daniel started appearing more often, something else in my life started getting worse, and it completely changed my relationship with my mum. Around that time, though, things between me and my mum started getting really bad. Like, not just normal arguments. I remember one night we were in the kitchen arguing about something stupid, I honestly don't even remember what it was anymore. Probably chores or homework or something like that. And suddenly she just snapped. 1 second we're yelling, the next she shoves me hard enough that I bump into the counter behind me. I remember the sound of one of the glasses rattling on the countertop and thinking, did that really just happen? And the weirdest part is what she said right after. She just looked at me and goes, "You're exactly like your father." Not in a normal way either, like it was an accusation, like somehow that explained everything. And after that, it started happening more. Not constantly, but enough that I started bracing for it whenever an argument got too heated. Sometimes it was just yelling, sometimes it was a shove or a slap. And every single time she'd say the same thing, that I reminded her too much of my dad. At some point I started fighting back during arguments, which obviously only made things explode even worse. But the part that still messes with my head the most is something else she convinced me to do. She talked me into calling CPS on my dad, twice. At the time she made it sound like he was dangerous, like we needed to protect ourselves. And when someone you trust keeps repeating something over and over, eventually you start believing it. So I did it. Looking back now, I feel awful about that. Meanwhile, my dad and I were both struggling a lot mentally during that period. He was dealing with depression, and my bipolar episodes were getting more intense too. Everything just felt chaotic all the time. But eventually life sort of settled into this weird routine. My mum had Daniel. We had this blended family thing going on. My sister and I were switching houses every week. From the outside, it probably looked like everything had worked itself out, like the drama was finally over. But yesterday something happened that completely blew everything open again. And it all started with one phone call. I was having a bad episode and got into a huge argument with my dad. You know those moments where emotions spiral and suddenly everything feels overwhelming at once? Yeah, it was like that. So I called my mum, crying. Apparently one of my step-siblings overheard the call and thought something really serious was happening. They told their mum, Daniel's ex-wife, and she panicked. So she called the police. On my dad. A few minutes later, cops were standing at his door. Now, nothing actually happened, it was all a misunderstanding, but the situation forced a conversation that probably should have happened years ago, because after the police left, my dad sat my sister and me down in the living room. And I could tell immediately something was different. He had a folder in his hands, and the way he was talking, it felt like he had been waiting a long time to say something. That's when he showed us the divorce paperwork, and finally told us the real reason their marriage ended. Apparently, before my parents separated, there was a night where they were, together. And in the middle of it, my mum accidentally said another man's name, not my dad's, someone else's. Actually, 2 different names. The first time she said Jake. Another time she said Daniel. And here's the detail that made my stomach drop when he said it. About a year ago, my stepdad Daniel had a friend named Jake. That's how my dad realised what was happening. That's how he discovered she had been cheating. When he finished explaining everything, the room just went quiet. My sister and I looked at each other and both started crying. Not dramatic crying, just that quiet kind where you feel sick and numb at the same time. Because growing up, Both of our parents always talked about cheating like it was the worst thing someone could do. And suddenly, we're realizing the entire story we'd been told about their divorce wasn't even close to the truth. My mum had told us a completely different version of events. Now it feels like that entire explanation was just a lie. And once that realization hits, a lot of other things start making more sense. The manipulation, the way she turned us against our dad sometimes, the way she always framed herself as the victim. I even found out recently that her first marriage ended because of a gambling addiction. Something else nobody ever talked about. So now I'm just sitting here wondering who my mum actually is. Because when the truth finally came out, it didn't just change how I see her, it changed how I see my entire childhood. And honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what parts of it were actually real. Stories like this honestly make you question how well you really know the people around you. If you want to hear another one that's just as insane, check out the story on screen right now. If your boyfriend's coworker texts him, "Great, now everyone thinks we're fucking." That's not normal, right? Because that's not harmless banter. That's not cute work wife energy. That's not, haha, people gossip. That's a very specific joke, and jokes like that don't come out of nowhere. I didn't think much of her before that, until I met her, and I swear to God I have not felt that small in years. I've been with my boyfriend, let's call him Jake, for 5 years. 5 years. We basically grew up together. He's 25, I'm 23. He's been at this job for a few years now, and I've never met his co-workers, not once. Which, fine, I trusted him. But fast this one girl, though, Amy, the infamous work wife. I'd mention her sometimes, like, "Oh, I'm helping Amy with her car," or "I'm going to Amy's place to fix something." And I didn't really think much of it because he always said, "Oh, they're all older than me, it's not like that." So I pictured, I don't know, a 40-year-old woman with 3 kids and a minivan, but fart what I walked into. But before that, one night he's asleep next to me, dead asleep, and his phone will not stop buzzing. His guy friend is blowing it up, over and over, so I pick it up to text him like, "Hey, he's asleep, chill." And before I put the phone down, I see 5 unread texts from Amy, and one of them says, "Great, Jake, now everyone thinks we're fucking." I can still see it, the laughing emoji, like it's cute, and my stomach just drops. Because what situation leads to that sentence? What conversation are you two having where that's the punchline? The next day I bring it up calmly. No accusations, no yelling. I just say, "Hey, that made me uncomfortable." And he doesn't hesitate. "We were both late to work. People probably assumed stuff. It's just a joke." Just a joke. But it didn't feel like a joke. It felt familiar, like an inside joke, like something built on history I wasn't part of. He could tell I wasn't okay, so he invites me to the bar that night with all his co-workers. "Come meet her. You'll see it's nothing." And I actually thought, okay, maybe this will make me feel better, but did not. We walk into the bar and I spot her immediately, because she's 40 years old, not even close, well, she's tersed, 3 years older than him. 3. And she's beautiful, effortlessly put together. The kind of girl who doesn't look like she's trying, but somehow everything falls perfectly.
the kind of girl you instantly compare yourself to without meaning to. And from the second we sit down, she's on him, touching his arm when she laughs, leaning into him when she talks, grabbing his hands across the table. At one point, she literally takes his arm and wraps it around herself like it's muscle memory. She kisses him on the cheek, in front of me. They're teasing each other all night. That weird middle school flirting thing where it's like, shut up, but smiling. And I'm just sitting there thinking, am I the only one seeing this? She keeps turning to me and saying, oh my God, I love him like a brother. Like a brother. And then, casually, like she's talking about the weather, she tells me she's slept with half their co-workers. Half. Laughing about how she once got a morning off because she sent one of them nudes so he'd cover her shift.
Like that's funny, like that's cute. I'm sitting there thinking, this is the girl who's texting my boyfriend about them sleeping together. And he's just chilling, like this is normal, like this is just Amy being Amy. And then it gets worse. Why, he starts crying. Not tipsy tears, full-on sobbing at the bar. And who ends up holding her? My boyfriend. He's rubbing her back, leaning in close, whispering to her, comforting her, and I'm just there, watching it all play out. I have never felt more invisible. I felt like I was watching my own relationship from the outside. Like I was the side character in this weird emotional triangle that I didn't sign up for. And the whole time he acts like I'm overreacting. Like this is just how she is. Like he's not doing anything wrong by entertaining it. But how do you compete with someone who gets daily access to your boyfriend, who works on the same unit, who can text him whenever she wants, who cries in his arms and calls him her brother, but also jokes about sleeping with him? I can't ask him to quit his job. I can't ask him to just never speak to her again. They work together every day. I'm not jealous because she's pretty. I'm not insecure because she exists. I'm devastated because he let it happen. Because he made space for it. Because he didn't draw a line. And now I'm stuck wondering, has this been the vibe for years? Has everyone at his job just assumed something's going on? Am I the only one who didn't know? I don't know how to set boundaries when they're forced to be around each other. How do you explain that something can be technically not cheating and still feel like betrayal? Because that's what I keep trying to put into words. I'm not saying he cheated. I'm not accusing him of sleeping with her, but watching them together didn't feel harmless. It felt intimate. And not in a dramatic way, just in a way that made me feel pushed to the side. I don't want to control who he works with. I don't want to be that girlfriend. But I also don't think it's crazy to expect some distance, some awareness. Like, if another woman is leaning on you, kissing your cheek, crying in your arms, maybe you don't just act like that's completely normal. Especially with your girlfriend sitting right there. I think what I need is for him to understand that this isn't about jealousy. It's about respect. And if he can't see why that night hurt me, then that's what really scares me. Okay, so, I kinda have to confess something. And honestly, I already know it makes me sound like morally questionable at best. Like I'm fully aware, okay? I hear myself. But it's one of those things where I can't tell if I should feel guilty or if I'm like, allowed to be happy.
even though it feels a little wrong. Yeah, that kind of thing.
So basically, my boyfriend, who we'll call Evan, chose me over his girl best friend. And not in some dramatic choose her or me movie moment. It wasn't like that. It was real life, messy, awkward, and honestly kinda uncomfortable for everyone involved. Except maybe me. Which is, why I feel bad. Because it felt really nice. Like warm, fuzzy nice. And that makes me feel like I need therapy or something. So yeah, that's the vibe today. I feel bad for feeling good. And I feel good for being chosen. And then I feel bad again. It's like emotional ping-pong, and I'm losing to myself. So Evan, let me tell you about him real quick, is like the human version of a friendly golden retriever. Like kind eyes, soft voice, never assumes anything bad about anyone, always thinking people have the purest intentions, even when they clearly do not. He could walk past someone holding a flamethrower and be like, "Oh wow, they must be cold." And before me, he had this girl best friend. Let's call her Mira. They've known each other like, I want to say 10 years? A decade of inside jokes and memories and, "Oh, remember when we used to?" stories. So obviously when he told me about her, I wasn't, like, jealous. I'm not the jealous type at all. If anything, I was like, "Oh, perfect. I love when guys can maintain female friendships." Like, yes, king, emotional intelligence. But then, yeah, I met her. So he takes me to this little coffee place he loves. It's cozy, but also kind of smells like old textbooks and burnt milk. But whatever. And she's already there. I walk in, Evan waves, I smile. She stands up and she goes, "Oh, you're the new girl." Okay. Like, hi to you too? It wasn't even rude exactly, but it was just something. You know when someone's tone feels like they're putting a price tag on your forehead and evaluating you? That's the vibe. But I'm still trying to be normal, so I'm like, "Haha, yeah, that's me. Nice to meet you." Like a golden retriever on crack. We sit down and she immediately starts with these little territorial comments. Not obvious enough where Evan would notice, but like, "Girl, I'm a woman. I speak fluent microaggression." I found like, oh my god, Evan and I came here every morning before class. It was like our thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then, his mom calls me her honorary daughter. And she looks at me like I'm supposed to flinch or something. And then, we used to hang out literally every single day before he met you. Like, okay, babe, I'm sure you all had a scrapbook too. And every time she would look directly at me like she was checking my reaction. Meanwhile, Evan is sipping his latte like he's watching butterflies in a field. Fast forward a bit and her behaviour starts to get intense, like Olympic-level try-hard. One day, Evan tells me she dropped off some stuff. And I'm thinking maybe like snacks? Or a book she mentioned? I don't know. He shows me. A sweater, but like the exact style he loved in high school. Personalised nostalgia core. A book with sticky notes saying, "This part reminded me of you." Homemade cookies in a tin with his initials engraved on it. Engraved. T-I-N. Girl, he is not your husband. This is not Pinterest. So yeah, we all go to dinner. Me, Evan, her boyfriend. Yes, her boyfriend, who she's been begging to propose. The irony is astronomical. We're sitting, eating, it's fine. and then she casually drops this bomb. Evan's family always told him he'd be dumb not to date me. And she is staring straight at me when she says it. Straight at me. Her boyfriend looks like his soul left his body. Evan looks confused, like someone told him grass is blue. And me? I'm doing that polite, haha, okay, face, where my soul is screaming but my mouth is grinning. A few days later, Evan sits me down and goes, I talked to my family about Mira. My stomach dropped because I didn't want to be that girlfriend who complains about other girls, but his family apparently had noticeable opinions without me saying a word. They told him straight up, she's being territorial, she's crossing boundaries, she doesn't respect your relationship, she doesn't seem to like your girlfriend. And Evan is shocked. Like genuinely shocked. He's like, but she never said she liked me. I thought she was just being friendly. Oh, sweetie. Then he looks at me and says, I don't want anyone around who disrespects you. And he cuts her off. Immediately. Like, phone blocked, socials muted, friendship ended. 10 years. Gone. And I felt warm, safe, chosen, and then I felt guilty for feeling all that, but the warm part was definitely winning. She starts blowing up his phone. I don't know what I did wrong. You're ruining our friendship. She manipulated you. And that last one made me actually snort because I did nothing. I stayed silent. I stayed polite. I didn't push him to do anything. She literally built the bomb and detonated it herself. I feel bad for her. I genuinely do. Losing a long-time friend sucks. But I also loved being chosen, being prioritized, being defended without having to ask. I loved it so much, it almost embarrasses me. But it also healed something inside me. I care, I feel bad for feeling so good, but I still feel good. So that's the story. Messy, awkward, low-key validating, high-key emotionally confusing. And if feeling chosen is wrong, then, yeah, I guess I'm wrong sometimes. Okay, I don't really know how to start this without it sounding dramatic, so I'm just going to say it. When I was a kid, I was really skinny. Like, really skinny. There are pictures of me when I was 4 or 5, and I genuinely look like a stick with hair. Like, you know those little drawings kids make where it's just a circle and lines for arms and legs? That was basically me. Tiny arms, tiny legs, huge eyes, just small. And I didn't think about my body at all back then. I didn't know what weight meant. I didn't know what being attractive meant. I didn't know that bodies could be judged. I was just existing. And then somewhere around 4th grade, something shifted. I honestly don't remember a specific moment. There wasn't some movie scene turning point. It was more like one year I looked one way, and the next year I didn't. I gained about 30 pounds in what felt like no time at all. And when you're that young, 30 pounds isn't just like, oh, okay. It changes everything. Your clothes fit differently. Your face looks different. Other kids notice. And around the same time, I developed a pretty severe psychological disorder. And I don't even want to go into the details of that because it's
a lot. But dealing with it was chaotic. It was confusing. It was scary. I didn't understand my own brain. My parents didn't understand my brain, and it caused so much tension in my house. And eventually, my parents' marriage fell apart. And I can't sit here and say it was all because of me. I know logically that's not how marriages work, but when you're a kid and everything explodes around the same time you start struggling, it's really hard not to internalize that. So there I was, 10 years old, heavier, mentally unstable, and watching my family fall apart. And ever since then, I've just been the chubby girl. And I have hated myself for it. Not in a cute, self-deprecating way, not in a, haha, I need to hit the gym way. I mean, I genuinely, deeply disliked myself. The way I looked, the way I took up space, the way my stomach looked when I sat down, the way my arms looked in pictures. I learned how to make jokes about it pretty fast, though. That became my defense mechanism. If I make the joke first, no one else can hurt me with it. If I say, yeah, I know I look like I ate the whole pizza, then no one can use that against me. If I laugh at myself, it's fine, right? But it's not fine. Because underneath the jokes, I was so insecure. Like, painfully insecure. The kind of insecure that makes you hyper-aware of every room you walk into. The kind where you automatically compare yourself to every other girl there. Her legs are thinner. Her waist is smaller. Her skin is clearer. Her hair is better. She looks effortless. I look like I tried and failed. That voice never shuts up. And over time, that insecurity started ruining parts of my life. I hate the way I look, so instead of going out, I stay in. Instead of going to parties, I say I'm tired. Instead of flirting, I assume he's not interested. Instead of wearing something cute, I pick the safest, baggiest option. And when I do make friends, I cling, because I don't feel worthy of people sticking around. So when someone is nice to me, like really nice, I latch onto it. I text too much. I overthink everything. I get anxious if they don't respond fast enough. I need reassurance without actually asking for it. And that becomes suffocating. And recently, I lost a bunch of friends. And if I'm being honest, it was probably because I was too much. Too insecure. Too dependent. Too intense. And when that happened, I spiraled. Like, fully spiraled. I started binge eating again. And I don't mean like, oh, I had an extra snack. I mean full emotional eating. Eating past fullness. Eating until I feel numb. Eating because it's something I can control. Eating because it's comforting. Eating because at least food doesn't leave. And I gained another 30 pounds. I'm about 200 now. I did lose a little weight over the summer, so technically I was heavier before. Which is wild to even say out loud, but yeah, that's where I am. And I've never really dated, like, at all. I haven't had my first kiss. I haven't had a boyfriend. I haven't had some dramatic situationship. Nothing. And part of that is because I don't try. I don't put myself in situations where it could happen. I assume no guy is looking at me that way. I assume I'm the funny friend, or the nice friend, or just there. And no one has really pursued me either, which just confirms everything my brain already believes. But sometimes I wonder if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, if you carry yourself like you're undesirable, people feel that. If you avoid eye contact, if you close yourself off, if you act like rejection is inevitable, maybe you're kind of making it inevitable. But it's hard to believe in possibility when you don't even like your own reflection. And I've been stuck in this cycle for years.
I tell myself, well, I'm already fat, so what does it matter what I eat today? And that turns into, I'll start Monday. And that turns into, I'll start next month. And that turns into nothing. Because the truth is, there's a part of me that feels like I already failed. Like I missed the window to be the pretty, carefree college girl. I'm in my last year here. This is supposed to be the best time of my life. That's what everyone says, right? These are supposed to be the years where you go out with your friends, take cute pictures, meet guys, fall in love, have stories you laugh about later. And I've been miserable. I spent so much of my college experience hiding in my room because I hate my body. I feel defective, like something is fundamentally wrong with me. Girls my age are out partying, dating, hooking up, being desired. And I'm sitting in oversized sweatpants, telling myself I don't care. And what makes it even more complicated is my mum. She's very Christian, very traditional, and she's actually happy that I'm not out partying or dating or being wild. She says I'm doing good, that I'm focused, that I'm not distracted by boys. And I can't stand it, because she's praising something that isn't virtue. It's fear. I'm not abstaining because I'm morally superior. I'm not staying home because I'm disciplined. I'm staying home because I'm insecure. I'm not dating because I have high standards. I'm not dating because I assume no one wants me. And it feels so lonely to have that misunderstood. My friendships fall apart. I have no romantic history. I hate how I look. And I feel like I'm running out of time. And I know that sounds dramatic. I know people older than me would probably laugh and say, "You're so young." But when you're in it, it doesn't feel young. It feels like a clock ticking. Like every year that passes without experiences is a year you don't get back. I look back at freshman year and think, why didn't I change then? Sophomore year, same thought. Junior year, same thought. And now I'm here. Senior year. And I'm scared that I'm going to graduate with nothing but regret. I don't want to look back at my early 20s and remember self-hatred. I don't want to feel like I almost lived. I want to actually live. I want to wear something cute without panicking. I want to flirt without assuming I'm embarrassing myself. I want to go to a party and not feel like the biggest girl in the room. I want to take pictures and not immediately delete them. I don't even want to be model thin. I just want to feel neutral in my own skin. I want to wake up and not feel disappointed.
And sometimes I wonder if losing weight would fix everything. But then I also wonder, what if it doesn't? What if I lose the weight and I'm still insecure? What if I get smaller and I still don't feel worthy? What if the problem isn't just my body, but the way I see myself? And that thought scares me. Because then it means this is deeper than calories and gym memberships. It means I have to confront why I cling to people, why I panic when someone pulls away, why I equate attention with worth. That's uncomfortable. But staying like this is uncomfortable too. There's this constant shame that follows me everywhere. When I sit down and feel my stomach fold, when I see a candid picture of myself, when I stand next to a petite girl and feel enormous. And there's envy. Envy of girls who don't overthink every outfit. Envy of girls who assume they're desirable. Envy of girls who don't apologize for existing. I don't want to hate myself anymore. I'm tired. Tired of the cycle. Tired of binging. Tired of isolating. Tired of pretending I don't care. Tired of watching other girls live the life I want. And I don't want my story to end like this. I don't want to be the girl who hid from her 20s. I want to change. I just don't know how to start without feeling overwhelmed. But I know pretending I'm fine isn't working anymore. So maybe this, admitting it, is step one. Maybe being honest, like really honest, saying, yeah, I'm insecure. Yeah, I'm lonely. Yeah, I'm scared I wasted time. Maybe that's the beginning. Because I'm not done yet. I can't be. I refuse to believe that this is the final version of me. And even if I feel behind, maybe I'm just early in becoming who I'm supposed to be. I don't know. But I'm tired of the ditch. And I think I'm finally ready to try climbing out.